tomorrow. So.
Okay, so both sides. So we're having the first Chabura, as you mentioned at the beginning of the year, that is really a very important part of your learning developmental stages. We get a chance to take apart a sugya and analyze it by itself and present it to the rest of the yeshiva. That puts in a very positive learning frame. So it definitely is very important. And the first one we're starting off by Avi Cohen.
Being as Rosh Hashanah is coming up, I thought it was appropriate to pick a Rosh Hashanah topic. A Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, Chaf Zayin of Days. Anybody want to read?
Where am I reading from?
Second line, fourth word of the Kale is HaTorah Tochabar.
Okay. HaTorah. Do you also want me to translate, or?
Yeah,
okay.
If you can.
HaTorah Tochabar is the one who blows the shofar from inside of the pit. Olatoch HaDot, or inside. What's a dot?
Is a cave.
Inside a cave. Olatoch HaPitas.
That's a barrel.
Okay. Im kol shofar shamea. If you can hear the sound of the shofar, yatsa. Then
if he heard the sound of the shofar.
If you heard the sound of the shofar, then he's yotze. Im kol habira shomea lo yatsa. But if he heard like the echo, then he isn't yotze.
All right, so that's it for the Mishnah. Now go to the Gemara. Down to Kela Tochabar. It's like 6 lines up, right in the middle line.
Okay, yeah. Okay, hato Kela Tochabar o letoch hadot chulei. So quoting the Mishnah. Amar Rafuna says, Lo shanu ela leotam ha'omdim al svat habor. So this Mishnah only taught regarding those who were blowing the shofar while standing at the edge of a pit. Of otan ha'omdim babor yatseu. But if you're standing inside the pit itself, then you're yotze.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so that's it from the Gemara.
Okay.
All right. So quickly look at Rashi. Osan omdim bar yatse.
Okay. Otan homdim babor yatsu. So if you those who are standing inside the board itself are yotze. Shehein kol hashofar leolam shamu. Because those people will always hear the call of the shofar.
Right. All right. So now, after reading the Gemara and Rashi, what questions immediately arise from the text? Any? Should be.
I mean, I guess it doesn't. What does it matter whether or not you're standing outside or inside? You're still going to hear the echo, or if you're close to the shofar, you're going to hear. Like, why does the fact that you're inside the pit have to do with whether or not you can hear the shofar? It seems like you'll be either able to hear it in both instances, or equally not able to.
Right, meaning it should be lo shanu in both cases.
Yeah.
Meaning, because the Mishnah stated a rule: if you can hear it or if you can't, so it shouldn't matter inside the pit, outside the pit.
Yeah.
So the question in the Gemara should be is, why does the Gemara differentiate between inside the pit and outside the pit? If the only thing that really matters is if you heard it or not, right? Right. So now let's go to the Rosh. Read the Rosh inside us and flip the page. Does anybody else want to read, or Johnny want to continue?
Okay. Matniden. So Mishnah Hatukel letoch habor o letoch hadod o letoch hapitam im kol shofar shomea yatsa v'im kol habara shomea lo yatsa. Yes, that's just a quote. Gemara. Amar, read the whole Gemara.
Just read the quote that he brings down.
Okay. So okay. Amar Rav Yehuda. So yeah, this is just what I just read. So Rav Yehuda says, Lo shana vela otam she'amdu al svat habor, ava otam ha'omdim babor yatsu. Okay, so we're quoting the Gemara. Perish Rashi, she'hein shomein kol shofar la'olam. So they'll always be able to hear the shofar. Mashma mitoch perusho otan ha'omdim al sfat habor, ha'amim shomein kol shofar, ha'amim shomein kol habara.
Right.
So
he's saying from the fact that Rashi said inside the pit you always hear the sound of the shofar, is mashma that outside the pit it depends.
Okay.
All right, continue reading.
V'chein mashma lishna de Rav Yehuda lo shanu b'matnitin niflaga bein shomea kol shofar ubein shomea kol habar. Okay. Ela leotam haomdim al sfat habor. Ela leotam haomdim al sfat habor. Aval haomdim bebor leolam shomein kol shofar. Okay.
Right, so he's just saying that it works well in the Lashon Gemara. It says that outside the pit there's the differentiation, but inside the pit you're always yotze.
Okay. The lo yadati ma havchana yesh im kol shofar shomea o kol habara shomea. So
he's saying he doesn't know what is the barometer for if you hear the how would you know if you heard the kol shofar or if you heard the kol havara, the echo.
Im taloi behavchanat adam. So if it's dependent upon the barometer of the person,
meaning what he says. Yeah, sure.
Okay. She'ye'amar shamati kol shofar. So you just trust his word. O taloi be'omak habor, or if it's dependent upon how deep the pit is. O be'hitkarav adam al sfat habor v'hitrachaku mimenu. What's that?
Or is it dependent on how close you are to the pit or how far?
Okay. V'lo mistaver she'yehei taloi behavchanat ha'adam. So, like, it doesn't make sense. I don't hold that it should be dependent upon the person. Dilma nishtana tikiyat. Sorry?
Dilemma.
Oh, dilama nishtana tikiyat habor pa'amim. Pa'amim kol shofar, pa'amim kol habara. So, like, why would it have taught that sometimes you can hear the shofar and sometimes it's the echo?
He's saying it doesn't make sense to have the person pick because it doesn't seem like an accurate way or just to let the person pick what happened.
Okay. Ve'im taloi be'omek habor o be'kiruvo sfat habor u'berikoko kol zeh t'aret shir. Okay.
It says, but on the other hand, if it really is dependent on the closeness or farness from the pit or the depth of the pit, then it should have given a share for that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Nira li afal gav de Rav Yehuda Amar lo shanu aimba
Ki'im
lefarish hamishna v'hachi perusha lo shanu im kol havara shomea ela leotam haomdim al sfat habor shehakol mitbalbel bebor kodem sheyatza l'chutz u'leolam einan shomein ela kol havara.
Right, so what is he saying? He's saying that when Rav Huna says that lo shanu ella, the Mishnah is only talking about when you're outside the pit, he's saying that the Mishnah actually meant when you're outside the pit, being as you won't know which one it is, you're never yotze because both. You're hearing both kol havar and kol shofar, both the echo and the shofar. Therefore, he says he translates the Mishnah as if you're in the pit, you are always yotze, and if you're outside the pit, you're never yotze.
Aval leotam haomdim bebor leolam kol shofar hem shomein v'yatze.
Right. Okay. So then he ends. But if you're inside the pit, you're always yotze.
Okay.
All right. So stop there.
Okay. If it was a problem to hear both the echo and the actual shofar, then why wouldn't it be the same problem in the bor? You can hear the echo also.
It's a problem. Right. So yeah. Right. So if it's a problem to hear both, it should be a problem inside the bar also. Yeah. Right. That's a good. But we see that both Rashi and the Rosh conclude that inside the pit you're always yotze.
Right.
They don't argue on that. So fine. So let's go back, and I guess the best way to do this would be go back and let's try to see if we can to find the actual Gemara, because both according to Rashi and the Rosh, there's a clear difference between being in the pit and outside the pit. If you're in the pit, you're always Yotze according to everybody, and if you're outside the pit, then it's already something else. It's already a different sound, and then the Rosh and the Rashi split. But let's try to define why in the pit are you always Yotze, and outside the pit it gets a little weird. Any ideas?
I mean, would it have to do? I mean, I know I mentioned this. That's why I'm kind of reluctant to say it. But like, if you see, when you see the guy blowing the shofar, then you know which. At least then you'll know which sound is the original sound. I know which sound is the echo. So I know which sound is the shofar. That way, if I know which sound is the shofar, it could be that's why I'm Yotze there. But when I'm outside the pit, I can't see it. Then I'm not necessarily going to know what it is.
Yeah, but the Mishnah's ruling would be even if you're standing right outside the pit looking in. Because again, it doesn't matter how close you are to the pit, or as long as you're outside the pit, you could be even leaning over with your ear right near the pit. You're still.
Okay.
And again, a hint would be that the reality is wherever you are hearing both. Unless your ear is in the shofar, you're going to hear both echo and shofar. You have to work off that premise because it's impossible that there won't be echo involved. That's how sound works.
You talk about a quick chazara. I know you just did it, but I feel like I'm missing a couple things.
All right. So the Mishnah says it depends if you blow inside a pit, it depends what you're hearing. Kol shofar or kol avar, the echo or the shofar, right? Rav Huna comes and says that's only talking about outside the pit, but inside the pit you're always yotze, right?
Yeah.
Rashi comments on that because you're always hearing kol shofar, all right? The Rush comments is arguing on Rashi. He says you're right inside the pit you're always hearing kol shofar, but he says outside the pit it doesn't depend. Outside the pit, you're always not Yotze.
It doesn't depend on...
Because you're always hearing both.
It's always not automatic.
If you're outside the pit, it's automatically no good. Rashi holds it depends. Rush holds it's automatically no good if you're outside the pit. If you're inside the pit,
okay,
it's automatically good.
And this is all about kol shofar. Because when you're in the pit, you're always hearing kol shofar.
But really going to hear both.
Because when you're in the pit, you always hear kol
That's
shofar.
what Rashi says and the Rush says also, right? That's the words he uses.
And then when it says when you're outside, they say anything else or just...
From outside, Rashi says that it depends what you hear, and the Rosh says again that you're going to hear both.
Okay.
Well, what's the problem? It's not the problem. The problem is you're hearing both the echo and the actual shofar blowing, or
right. So,
or you're just not sure whether you're hearing the echo or the actual shofar blowing.
Right. So
you're outside the pit.
Okay, so you are sure you're hearing both. In both cases, you're going to be hearing both.
Right.
You're working with sound in a pit. There's going to be echoes and going to be shofar.
Right.
For whatever reason, in the board doesn't make a difference. So, meaning in the board, we don't care about the echo.
Right. In the bar, we don't care about the echo. Right. That's it. In the bar, we don't care about the echo.
Say maybe in the bar you first hear the sound of the shofar before you hear the echo. Outside, the chance you might hear the echo, it'll only be echo, and you won't.
Right.
When you could hear the sound coming from the shofar, and then you hear the echo. But if you're outside the door, you might only hear...
Right, but let's take it to an extreme. Let's say you're in a cave that's 300 feet long. You're standing on a pit. Well, let's say cave also, but let's say it's a pit. Huge pit. You're standing on one end, you blow the shofar on the other end. There's no chance you're not hearing an echo, but you're still Yotze.
Oh.
Go on first.
I think we got to define what kol shofar is.
Right, okay.
So it seems that it's not... clearly it's not just the sound. Clearly it can't just be the sound. We already know that because of the echo thing, but I want to say differently. The fact that you said that you can be standing outside the pit and leaning in, and you're not, according to Russia, not Yotze, it's pretty crazy. So it seems that there are two categories. One category is there is a sound, there's a call, but another thing seems to be you got to be in the geographical coordinates of the bore. And if you are outside of it, that's no longer defined as kol shofar. So there's like one category of, let's say, proximity and one of actual sound.
Right.
And that's violated when you're outside the bore, and that's why you're not hearing kol shofar, because you're not in the bore.
So you're saying that's for a general shofar for the Gemara, why there's a difference between being in the pit
for the rush, for the rush, yeah.
Well, not for the rush. Right now we're trying to find...
Fine, I'm trying to make some headway with kol shofar.
So you're saying if you're in the pit, that's a different category than being outside the pit.
Yeah, being outside the pit, you've violated category of kol shofar, and therefore you're not hearing shofar.
So then you're going to have to be more specific. Yeah, what about kol shofar needs to be?
I just said there are two categories. You need to be in the proximity of the board to find the outlines of the board.
Yeah, but you have to connect kol shofar with being in the pit.
Okay.
Just say, like, who cares?
Is that
Maybe there's also, like, there's a category, maybe he has to wear a hat also. Like, it has to have something to do with it.
Does it have to do with the guy being yotzi you? Has that kavanah to be yotzi you, or does that make a difference?
So one more time, I didn't hear.
Does it have to do with the guy having kavanah to be yotzi you, the guy in the bor?
No, let's say he knows you're there, everything.
So that-
Again, there has to be something with, no matter, again, the sound heard right now is almost irrelevant because it's impossible not to be hearing both. So in both scenarios, you're hearing both. So it must be, it's something about what's being produced. That's the problem. So on that line of thinking, where can we go with this, Yoni?
Well, is the problem, just to clarify, is the problem with the tokea and echo is not being able to discern between the two? What's the problem with having both?
All right, so exactly. So the problem with having both, it depends. It might not be a problem. But the theoretical problem of having both is it's not kol shofar anymore. But in the pit you have both, and it is kol shofar. So it's not about the sounds.
Could it be because the echo is just more discernible? It's more apparent in the like when you're outside the bore, you don't know which one's which. You can't discern which one's which. But when you're in the bore, the echo is probably going to be more dominant.
Oh, you said outside the board it does not matter according to Rashi, yeah?
According to Rashi, it
doesn't
doesn't
matter.
matter.
No,
according to... Okay, right now we're not to... Forget Rashi and the Rush.
Okay.
The Gemara is clearly differentiated. One second, I'll go back. The Gemara clearly differentiates between being in the pit and outside the pit.
Okay, but outside the pit, what happens? You said it does matter that they're not there.
Whatever it is, it depends between the Rashi and the Rush. That's my whole...
But
it's a little different.
Question. It's not a good question. You said coal and the echo, but it matters when it's outside the pit.
So he's trying to give a story why outside the pit would make a difference.
Okay.
So, Yon, your story is that outside the pit, it's harder to distinguish.
Yeah, I'm just trying to also understand what's the problem with both. I still don't get why. What's the problem with having both?
All right. So again, that question must lead us. There must be a problem with if it's both. It's not kol shofar, or it could be. Again, because if you're in the pit, it's both, and it is kol shofar. So it's not exactly what the two that are making the sound, but it's more what is making the sound. It's not the echo versus the kol shofar, but something about the combination in one case works and something about the combination in the other case doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Is it a problem what you hear first? Meaning, like if you hear the echo first, it's a problem. But if you hear the sound from the actual shofar first, it's not a problem. Because like if you're outside the board, you're not sure what you heard first.
No, so again, you give an extreme case. If you're in a pit, which is 400 feet long, and you're on one end, you're still yotze.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, yeah, as of now, yeah, you're still yotze. Let's just take it as you're still yotze if you're on one side of the pit, and because there's something about the scenario of being inside the pit with the shofar as opposed to being outside the pit.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, I think I can just kind of get a little more precise in my categories. I want to say that forget kol shofar, like even echo is really not operating off of physics. It's like a little more abstract. Like this echo, first of all, only has potential to become, so to speak, when you're outside the bore. It's like when you're inside, for whatever reason, being in that proximity doesn't allow the problem of echo to manifest.
Irregardless of, because there is echo.
Just the rig, but yeah.
Yeah, regardless. There is echo.
But yeah, no, I'm saying, so once you step past the boundaries of the pit, now, for whatever reason, now that the problem becomes a real problem, that potential problem of echo becomes a real problem.
Right.
Inside the pit,
in other words, the echo mixed with the kol shofar creates a new sound, which is now a problem outside the pit, which in the pit, even though it's the same sound, you can't argue that it's different sound outside the pit, inside the pit.
So why is that? Because echo is not operating purely off of the physics of sound waves. It's dependent upon whether or not you fulfill the category of in the pit or outside the pit. When you're in the pit, it doesn't matter.
So you can say that, but then what is the difference between inside the pit and outside the pit? It's the same question. Again, yeah, we made a nice first step. We established that it's not the sounds that make the difference. It's a little to do with the sounds, but not really, because the same sounds in the pit are the same sounds outside the pit. All right. You want to try?
No.
Okay. So,
did you say that inside the pit it's always considered kol shofar?
Inside the pit, you're always hearing kol shofar.
And outside the pit, according to Rush, you're never hearing kol shofar.
Well, let's not take the Russia. Let's just say it's different outside the pit. It's worse outside the pit. It's more difficult outside the pit. Again, right. So let's think. If you're in a pit with a shofar, right? We know that echo is impossible to avoid. There's no way to avoid echo when blowing a shofar, unless you're in an open field. But then I guess you have other problems with hearing and stuff. So why would echo inside a pit, when you're standing with your shofar inside the pit, and he's blowing and you're listening, why is echo not a factor? It must say something about kol shofar with an echo. Why would that still be kol shofar?
Because it's like it could be because it's unavoidable. Meaning the sound that comes out, just like when I blow it in this room right here, the sound that's going to come out is the shofar. Then when I blow it in the pit, that's the sound that's coming out. It's the same. It's the same.
Exactly. When you blow it in show, you're still going to have echo. It's still kol shofar. That's part of the acoustics of a shofar. Is if you blow it in a room, the acoustics of the room will create that sound. You can't say that now it's not kol shofar just because it has echo. That's how sound works. You wouldn't be able to hear sound if it didn't bounce off anything.
Yeah. So the question is, that's that.
I don't know if that scientifically works, but whatever.
Can you say that when he's standing inside the pit, the shofar and the pit are almost acting as maybe one entity that's producing a kol?
Right.
Whereas if he's outside, he's blowing the shofar and it goes inside the bore, comes outside, so it's like two different things?
Very close, but kind of the opposite. So now we figured out that
that happens a lot.
No, we have a good spar. We have a good spar for why in the pit it's not a problem because that's acoustics. There's no way to avoid it. That is kol shofar with echo. But now, can someone say why outside is that a problem?
Outside the pit, you have the ability to hear a shofar without an echo.
Can you redefine why it's kol shofar? Can you redefine why it's kol shofar?
That works though.
Can you define why it's kol shofar?
Why is it kol
Does it
shofar?
sound super abstract, or maybe I just don't get it?
It's kol shofar because first of all, I think that's how sound works. It bounces off things, and you can't tell me that it's not kol shofar just because I'm in a room with the shofar. There's no other way to set up the mitzvah than being in the room with the shofar.
So I guess you could say that kol shofar is being blown, but I never hear it. You say I just hear the echo. Like I don't know, maybe I'm being too civic here, but you're saying it's unavoidable, and we're saying I never really hear it. But just because I don't hear it doesn't mean it detracts from kol shofar.
You're getting too caught up on what the sounds you're hearing. It's irrelevant to what sounds you're hearing at this point.
Because it's being blown.
Because it's being blown in an environment where it's kosher.
I can know that retroactively from the echo that kol shofar is being blown, even though I don't hear it. I'm getting confused whether or not there's like a strict I don't know, physics description, or it's like it's kol shofar because it's blown. I'm not.
It's not a physics description. It's the physics you're going to have it anyways. You're going to have echo, but being as you're in the same room as a shofar, that is considered kol shofar.
Okay.
Again, kol shofar is not purely
when
just.
You look on the physics alley. Now we're going to split hairs about how physics works outside the bore like that.
No. You didn't hear the story. You're making up your own story. That's why your story.
Right now, kol shofar is just because you hear a sound.
Kol shofar, no, because that is kol shofar. There's no other way to have kol shofar. That is kol shofar. Kol shofar is blown in a room. Okay. Whatever happens, there's acoustics in a room. That's part of kol shofar.
It's unavoidable, and therefore it's not considered legitimate.
Right. So now the other side is how. So what's the spar when you're outside the thing? Can't you also say it's just acoustics?
What's wrong with my thing?
Yeah, that sounds great right now.
Well,
yeah, I think Johnny might have said this, but to the outsider, it sounds like the bore is producing both sounds.
Right. Yeah, no, see, because he said that you said that it's not that the bar, because he said by inside the pit is both. That's by outside the pit is both.
And both is in one?
Yes, it's in one. It's now
it's indistinguishable. Great.
No, it's a shofar bar.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Right.
Why is it
Shofar bar?
outside?
It's a new instrument.
Why is it?
You're outside the pit. The pit becomes part of the instrument.
Because you can hear it one. Because you can hear it one or the other.
Oh, this is very crazy. This is very crazy. If you're already inside the acoustics,
yeah,
it's very cool. I'm not really sure where I'm getting here, but I mean, I say if you're already inside the acoustics, I don't know what else to say. But if you're already inside the acoustics, like it hasn't become a different instrument for you. But for the person outside the board,
it's
acoustic becomes like let's say a facilitator of the sound.
Right.
And now it's got a new status as an instrument, as what you said, a shofar board.
Right.
Not a short par, but a shofar board.
Like for example, it's a
inside joke. Sorry.
Right. Okay. No, it's right. So what you're saying? It's when you're outside the pit and the shofar become one instrument because you're not hearing the shofar, you're hearing the shofar pit, which is now.
But isn't that called shofar?
What's
No, that's
Why
only
is that not called shofar?
because you're not in the pit. If you're in the pit, then it's acoustics.
Why?
The board becomes the extension of the shofar.
Yes, exactly.
So why is it different than when you're inside the pit?
Because if you're outside the pit,
You can't distinguish.
it's not about distinguishing. It's about what is producing the sound.
No, but
If you're in the room,
he's asking
400 feet away.
for some reason, when you're not removed, for whatever reason,
The board is the one that's creating the.
Wait, Tom. I could only address one at a time. So,
Why is it different than if you're inside the pit 400 feet away? How are you? If it's actually in your ears here, it sounds the same way.
because
Or does it?
you're within the instrument. If you're within the instrument, it can't be the instrument.
Why?
I think the statement speaks for itself. If you're within the instrument, it can't be the instrument.
This is the why question.
That's part of the acoustics. It's not a why question. You're not.
But why?
Right, okay, I'll give you an example. A symphony, or if you're in a symphony, it's a huge hall, right?
Yeah.
You're going to tell him he's not listening to the symphony just because there's the acoustics of the room make him hear it? That's how they set
No, I'm not asking that. I'm asking why if you are contained within the, let's say, I don't know, the acoustic mechanism, let's say, yeah, that's the word, within the acoustic mechanism, why is it only once you are physically removed from that coordinates, now does it become an extension of the shofar?
Because you're not, it's not the acoustics of the room. It's now, the room becomes part of the instrument.
Why?
You're still in there.
Why you
It also facilitates when you're sitting in there. What's the difference?
It's like an
Because,
amplifier.
yeah, it's like putting a silencer on the shofar.
When you're in the
Like an
board,
amplifier.
shofar mixed with something. When you're outside the board, it's not even shofar anymore because
It's a shofar
I mean,
bar.
very nice. But at the end of the day, when it's in the symphony, the
Uh,
acoustics of the room does increase, does facilitate my hearing
that's
experience.
part- right,
So you're gonna have to say something along the lines
That's
of it
part of
doesn't
the
matter.
symphony.
What?
Of course, that is the symphony. That's why they set the room up like that. That's why in a show, it's still a shofar.
So for whatever reason, even if I'm outside the board and I'm looking at the symphony playing, the symphony and the board become one sound.
Yes, because
mechanism.
you're outside the instrument.
Okay, so why does my physical removal now make them one entity?
But again, because you're looking at it the wrong way. If you weren't in the room, then it would be a problem anyways. Meaning, the only reason why you can say it's acoustics is because you're in the room with the shofar. Really, it should be a problem always, because it's not close shofar, it's close shofar and echo.
I'm looking to play the instruments. I have some idea how the causal chain reality works. I know they're playing the instruments. I'm saying you can't tell me the walls are playing it. I see them playing it.
Again, it's not a shofar that's producing the sound. It's a shofar bar. What if you took a shofar and put something on it? It's not a shofar anymore. It's a different type of instrument. It is irrelevant to what you see. It is the sound that is being produced is a shofar pit. That's what it is. If you're in the pit, then it's a shofar with
But if
acoustics.
if I'm standing right at the edge and I'm looking over, I'm still outside the pit.
If you're right at the edge of a trumpet and looking in, it's not a trumpet. It's still a trumpet. It's a shofar pit. It's
Yeah,
not-
but if I'm saying
No,
the
but
trumpet is not
if I'm
trumpet.
standing outside, it's not going to call shofar.
If it was made up of two instruments and you're inside the trumpet, then you're hearing the one instrument with the echoes of the trumpet. And if you're outside, then you're hearing the trumpet. Yeah.
No, if I'm outside the pit,
I'm not getting. We're trying to go the physics route.
If I'm
and then,
outside the pit and I'm leaning over,
Yeah.
what am I hearing?
Okay, I don't know.
Am I hearing a shofar bar?
I mean, let's say your whole body's out of the pit, right?
Whole body, and I'm leaning in.
You're hearing a shofar pit being blown.
Wait, shofar pit meaning you don't hear the sound to the shofar, you hear the sound from the pit?
The sounds become a problem now that it becomes an instrument. Until it's an instrument, the sounds are
So when you're
irrelevant.
in the pit, it's two different things. There's the shofar, and then there's
Right,
but
because-
when you're out, everything that's in that, basically you put like a, I guess you could say like a covering and everything.
The
under.
source of the sound becomes the instrument now.
So that entire pit and the shofar, everything, that
Why?
sound, it's all one thing. It's all
Yes.
together, and then it becomes a problem.
Does it matter why, or is this a why question we can't answer?
Why? What do you mean why?
Never mind.
Right. I don't know how to answer that
It's
one.
all right. It's probably on me anyway.
All right. So now let's go back now. So what do you think the rush is now? Okay, so now we have outside the pit, right? We just established outside the pit is some type of different sound. Now we're not saying it's technically a bad sound. It's just a new type of sound, right?
It's definitely not just kol shofar now. It's
Right.
Like you said, it's kol shofar board.
Yes, new type of sound. The rush takes that route and he goes, that's no good. Always no good. But for Rashi, somehow, says that no, Rashi says it depends. Rashi leaves it with the Gemara that it depends on what you hear. So now let's try to figure out what the Rush and Rashi might have been arguing about. They weren't arguing about physics. Rashi held that Rashi must have hold that the sound coming out is a new type of sound. There is both sounds coming out.
But is it kol shofar?
But
Is it part of kol?
But he holds it can be. It depends on what you hear.
I think the rush is pretty simple. Meaning kol shofar is kol shofar. Anything that's not kol shofar, meaning once it leaves the pit, like we said, it's now as a new chalot shem. It's not shofar anymore. It's shofar bor, whatever you want to call it.
But that's not necessarily bad. What makes that bad?
Because it's not kol shofar.
Maybe the guy can hear. That's not the problem. Maybe the guy can hear.
What is the problem?
You have to hear kol shofar. The Rosh says you have to hear kol shofar. If you're not in the pit, you're not hearing kol shofar, so you're not yotze.
No, if you're not in the pit, it isn't kol shofar. It's both. But that might not be bad.
According to the Rashi,
it's the same.
So people with hands up.
Okay.
Yeah, so according to Rashi, what is the case which is okay for the observer?
If he says, I heard kol shofar. Irregardless of that both sounds are coming out, I know that, but I know there was kol shofar coming out.
So
What I heard was kol
So it
shofar.
goes the one he says.
What?
So it goes the one he says then.
Yeah, so right, exactly. Rashi holds that we can allow the person to pick.
So basically, according to Rashi, like everyone's cases where like the guy is standing near, and he either pays close attention or he sees the shofar, and if he says he heard the shofar, then it's good. But if he's not sure if he heard it or not, then it's not good.
I don't know what he holds. I assume if it's not good, you're not yotze.
So unless he knows for sure that he heard the shofar and not the shofar bor,
Right.
then it's good.
Because again, the last thing we know happened is that a new sound was produced. That's the last thing we know that happened, that came out of the pit.
So according to the Rashi, he says, since there's this new sound, this new sound, across the board is not good. But Rashi says, if you could differentiate and say, I heard the shofar, then it is good.
Right, but if you look, we're going to read the Rashi again inside just the key words. If you look at the Rashi, he didn't have a problem. He has a problem with that we can't differentiate. We can't let the guy differentiate. Not that the sound is no good.
Maybe we can't let him differentiate because he'll try to say, I heard it when he really didn't hear it.
Whatever the reason is. The Rush seems to hold that that's not a good system.
Okay.
But he doesn't hold that there's anything wrong with the person. He doesn't hold
So
anything
Rashi
inherently wrong with
agree.
the choosing.
So Rashi and Rashi agree that there's no problem with this sound that comes out of the shofar board.
Right, they both agree there's nothing inherently wrong with the sound.
Maybe the Rush saying there's no mechanism for the human being to differentiate. Because it's not that it becomes kol shofar bor because there's no mechanism for the human being to differentiate. But initially it's just kol shofar plus kol bor. It's not one sound, it's two. A new sound was created, but not new in the sense that it's one. It's another one, it's a plus one. For whatever reason, Rashi seems to hold that there's some sort of mechanism for the human being to differentiate. The Rush says no.
Right, so again, they're not arguing about what mechanisms are on a human being.
Halachic mechanism. Now, is it
Right, that's more accurate.
Tastes better.
Halachic mechanism would make. Yes. All right, so let's go back into the Russian. Johnny, if you'll read again the couple lines that.
Yeah. Where am I starting?
Let's go to below Yadati. So again, it's 5 lines down, end of the line, the last word. So again, the Rush just concluded that Rashi must hold. It depends on the it depends on what the guy heard when that new sound coming out. That's what he says Rashi holds. But now he's going to say this can't work for whatever reason. Now Johnny, read the V'lo Yadati.
ולא ידעתי מה ההבחנה יש עם כל שופר, שומע, כל שופר שומע או כל הברה שומע. אם תלוי הבחנת אדם שיאמר שמעתי כל שופר, או תלוי בעומק הבור, או התקרב אדם על שפת הבור והתרחקו ממנו.
Right, read it. Okay, so he says he doesn't really know what the Brahma is for either. Again, is it a sheer thing or is it the person? So V'lo Mistaver is really where it is.
Okay. ולא מסתבר שיהא תלוי הבחנת האדם דלמה נשתנה תקיעת הבור פעמים כל שופר פעמים כל הבר.
Right, and read Vim Tali.
אם תלוי בעומק הבור או בקירובו על שפת הבור וברחוקו כל זה צריך שיר.
Right. So online the words kol zet tzarich shir. Everything, all this would need a measurement. What is the Rosh saying?
Sorry, can you just repeat some of that English before that?
Okay, so the Rosh says that I don't know how we would decide this. He says, but it doesn't make sense that the person can choose. And if it was a measure which is outside the person, it would have to give a shear for that.
What was the measure outside the person?
Let's see, depends how far you're from the pit, the depth of the pit. So what is the Rosh saying when he says Kol Zeh Tzarech shear?
If you are in the pit?
If you're
What
outside
do you
the
mean?
pit.
What is he? You mean what is he saying that the Gemara is not saying?
No, what ideas is he bringing across by saying all of this needs a shear? What is he saying is the inherent problem with picking?
He's saying that it could be.
It's dependent.
It could be differentiated in without halacha. I mean, halacha comes along with the shear, but the human being could differentiate based on a certain sound. This kind of makes sound like you're saying there's machlokus in physics now.
No,
or in sounds.
No, he's saying. Okay. All right. He's saying that halacha needs to be objectified. He's saying either way you put it, if it is, it can't be. He's reiterating says it can't be a subjective measure. The human can't pick. It doesn't make sense. So what else would it be? So then, if it depends, there would have to be some other type of measure. But it doesn't give a measure because there is no way to objectify the sound that's coming out. So what does he do? He says we go back to the last thing that we know objectively what it was. We know objectively it's not kol shofar, it's this new type of sound. So he said if that's the last place we were, then we have to say that's no good because there's no way to go any further. We hit a wall. There's no way to figure out what that sound was. But we know it was both. We know it was a new type of sound. We know it's not a pure shofar sound.
Fine.
We know it's a shofar bit. Therefore, halachically, we have to say, okay, being as we can't get any further, we have to go back to our last objective measure, and that's where we stop it. And being as it was both, it's aser, not yotze.
He said so to him, it's not a problem that it's not necessarily a problem that this kol bar came along. It's that now it's you can't distinguish it from kol shofar. It's that it's now become one identity, kol shofar board.
Right.
That's the problem.
Not
it's
because there's anything
inherent.
inherent.
It's kol shofar board.
He said
right, no, clearly
he wanted to see it go further.
Right, no, clearly it's on the wrong board. Somebody could split it kol shofar plus kol board.
Right.
It'd probably be great.
Right. He
But
loves to
because
see
there's
us
no
go
way
further.
for him to put the plus.
You have to go relax to the last objective
one.
measure.
Now he says.
So what clearly is Rashi saying?
It can be split.
A little more.
That there is an extra, whatever it is. there's an
Halachic
extra
mechanism.
element.
There is an halachic mechanism to make it
What is
subjective.
Distance?
What is it? Can anybody think of another example?
What the guy perceives it to be, it seems like.
Right,
Oh.
that's what he holds. But can anybody give another example in the halachic world
It better not be that one.
where the person can pick, where you're allowed to go subjective?
Don't know no shots for this one.
Is it if they're blowing in the shul and you walk past the shul?
No, that's still within show.
Oh, that's still-
That would be unfair.
Wait, why? What are we trying to find this in?
Another case.
Another case in the halachic world, the halachic system, where the Torah, the halacha allows you to be subjective, allows the subjectivity of the human. For example, it's also got to do with one of the senses, five
It's like
senses.
Wheel of Fortune,
Yeah.
and give us a letter. We'll,
No letters. You can
Yeah.
play hangman though. What?
Being satisfied after you eat.
No, they have amounts for that.
No, that's only the
It's a
Rabbanon.
fun-
What?
That's only the Rabbanon.
We're talking about the Rabbanan putting in the halachic system. There is an area where the Rabbanan said the people can choose. It's up to human sense.
maybe a hint would do.
All right, throw a hint. Got to do with kashrus.
Oh, it's just
What?
Busted.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe another.
Okay. No. So.
oh, it's just
Wait. Okay. So let me hear. What is the problem with kashrus? What is the sensory problem with kashrus?
What element of kashrus?
There's only with taste.
Oh.
Where in halacha can taste be subjective in regards to kashrus?
Oh,
Talking about
We learned this last year.
yeah, we did this last year. We did do it last year? We did do it last year.
No,
Got it?
just gum.
Right. Your
Tuition
tech.
adjustment.
Yeah.
Tom. The
Right.
whole thing about Tom. Can you taste the
Yes,
fork?
you're
Can you
allowed
taste
to taste it to see. Well, you're not. It might not be. But there's a case.
There's a taster.
Non-Jew is
You
allowed
got
to taste it to
Right.
see if it has pork or not.
Right.
Okay.
Also, the goy.
And
We
what
need
is
a
that?
goy.
Yeah. Or no. There's another case.
Listen, figure it out. We need a goy. For the kol shofar board, we need a goy.
Avi,
No.
Cohen, Truma.
Yeah. No. So
What do you say?
All right. So now quickly, what would the rush? Why? What's the difference between tom and shofar?
What?
You don't know what you're.
There's no way in physics to distinguish with your cochlea. I'm sorry, there's a limit to the human sensory perception, and we've hit the wall.
Okay.
And no guy can even.
What about Rashi? So Rashi said we haven't hit the wall.
What?
Rashi didn't say we haven't.
It clearly can't be about physics. It clearly can't just be about distinguished sound.
Hold on a second.
No, will you just repeat what you said? What's the difference? You said what's the difference?
All right, there might not be one, but what would Rush? The Rush has to do something with Tom, I guess, because he also agrees that Tom could also be. So what is the problem with Rush saying that the guy can pick by Shofar?
Whoa, Rashi.
What?
We're looking at Rashi.
Rashi would use Tom as a good example of what he's saying.
Because even though you can't distinguish now between the shore, since you can't the shofar and the bore, you can't distinguish. That's been established. Even inside the pit, you can't. But maybe you can. I don't know. But maybe he says that you can distinguish between the shofar bore and completely echo, and that could be something measured by like distance or something. I mean, I know when I just heard the echo, but I don't.
No, the Rashi holds it's completely
It's subjective. Right, exactly. So
With no
what's else similar to
Rashi
Tom?
holds it's
Hold
subjective.
up, Dylan, 1 second. Tom, what we just established by Tom is that the guy can take whoever it is can taste it for me, and if he tastes the pork, then,
no good.
so the same. I'm trying to draw a parallel.
Right, okay.
It's got to be that he's able to distinguish between the sound that might be considered kol shofar and something that's not considered kol shofar. So right now, the only thing to be considered kol shofar is something that's it needs to be that the kol shofar is the shofar with the bore, because it's the only sound you're hearing. That's the best you can possibly do. So that must be okay.
Or
okay?
or you can just distinguish the difference between echo and sound.
Okay.
But if I can't do that in the bore, how are you saying that I'm able to do that?
No, maybe you could do it in the bore, but everybody holds in the bore yards anyways. It's only outside the bore that you watch your eyes, and Rashi holds you're allowed to. You're allowed to be able to distinguish. Must be Rashi. But the Rush and Rashi probably both hold you're allowed to. The Rush probably just doesn't like it that it's subjective over here in this case. But Tom, he would probably agree. So I want to find a little difference between Tom and Shofar in regard to the subjectivity of the human.
You're saying he's able to distinguish from outside the pit?
Yeah, come on. You know if you hear echoes and sound different.
So it is
So he's able to try to test it out to see what you care about.
No, again, by Tom he tested out.
I don't understand what.
No, he's just saying the guy can say, "I heard shofar." I don't care where I was. I heard shofar. That's Rashi says.
Right. So why can he use the same thing? Why can he say outside the pit? I'm able to differentiate between that echo sound. And
Right. That's what Rashi holds. So
what's the problem?
Rush doesn't hold that.
Can you explain the Rush one time?
The Rush holds that no matter what, if you're outside the pit, it's no good because there's some type of new sound being created. And being as he doesn't like going the subjective route, he's going to go back to the last objective measure we had, which is that shofar pit that was making the sound.
So that's it. Maybe the Rush would say the difference is that by the case of kashrus, he gets the guy to taste it. So when he's eating it, he knows whether it has pork in it or not. But by the shofar, it almost seems like the guy has kavanah when he starts. He's not sure if he's going to be yotzei or not. Meaning he almost is going to say like the guy when he hears it. Then afterwards he's going to decide, and he almost is going to have like retroactive kavanah whether he was yotzei with that's okay or not.
Maybe that's more like a technical problem. The Rush, as we hold, there's something wrong. There's something that's unable to be subjectively measured by shofar, which is seemingly in a parallel case can be subjectively measured by Tom.
How is that subjective?
Where and what?
By Tom.
The guy says I taste the pork.
Oh, so okay, fine.
Right.
It seems like the Rush has to be saying the kol shofar. I'm using this word properly. It's very possible not, but the din is in the instrument, whereas Rashi's saying the din's on the listener.
Right. I wouldn't go that far.
All right, the din is not clearly not an instrument.
Right,
there's as much an instrument as Rush wants.
There's a difference between Tom and shofar in the fact that Tom is just what you're tasting, not really. The taste is the problem.
But there's
by
the
shofar,
reality
it's trying to
Tom.
figure out what caused the sound.
Yeah, it's
the Russian hold, it's
yeah.
harder. It's impossible to figure out what caused the sound you're hearing than if you can hear the sound. The Rush would agree you could hear kol shofar, just like you could taste pork.
Right.
But if you had to figure out what combination is creating that pork taste, nobody can figure that out.
Yeah. Okay. Now what though? Okay, no. But if I'm saying that, but
Can you explain?
it's very simple.
So by taste, what's the problem of food is Tom. You see, because like you see in Caleb, it's the Tom that transfers, not the actual thing.
Right.
Tom is the that's why cold things technically are not a problem. So tom is more than the ikr of the thing is the tom that it creates, right? So by the guy tasting the pork, all it matters is if he can taste pork or not.
Right.
But by shofar, we're trying to figure out something else. We're trying to figure out what's creating the sound.
Right.
It's much harder to be subjective about what caused the sound. It's very nice that you're hearing shofar, but how can you say that's the sound that was being
So
created?
you say the guy, you say the guy is not sure. You say the
That's
guy,
what it is. The question is what's causing the sound.
Are you saying that the
Saying
guy
the question
is
was
not
never within the
sure
category of pork.
what
It's apple
he's listening
bacon or
to?
that's all
Are
the
you saying
question.
the guy is not sure
Go based on
what
what
he's
you hear.
listening to?
He's not sure what's creating the sound that he's hearing.
So
He knows what he's
so
hearing.
that's the problem?
That's what the Rush would say. There's a difference between Tom, right? Yeah, but Tom is just a
So
taste.
with Tom, you're able to, you know for a fact what you're tasting or not tasting. But with the
If you taste it, as long as you taste it.
Right, so if you're outside the bar, you're not entirely sure what you're listening to. So that's
You're sure what you're listening to, but you're not sure what's creating the sound that you're listening to.
But you're sure what you're listening to.
Because that's what we're trying to find out by shofar.
You're not
Shofar is-
sure
you have to
what's
blow a shofar, not hear a shofar. You have to blow a shofar, and that sound that caused you have to hear. But it's telling what's making the sound.
You're not sure that what's causing it.
Meaning, he's saying outside the pit, it's that objective shofar pit sound. There's no way to go, oh wait, that was actually the shofar that was making the sound, not the pit.
You're also
But what else
not,
is making the sound?
But-
you're also not sure. I think in Tom also.
yeah, but again, but Tom is just about the Tom. It's got nothing to do with what causes
Yeah,
the
but
Tom. It's just the
maybe
Tom.
it's not pork.
Tom is the problem.
Maybe it's not pork. Maybe it's something else.
Oh, but that's the subjective part. You're allowed to do that. Meaning, if you taste pork, it's the taste of pork is the problem.
Even though it might not be pork.
Okay, but or else then it wouldn't be. You can't taste something that's not. Again, it's different in a sound. Sounds can be created by many different things, and sound, again, especially when we're dealing with two sounds that are joining together to cause one sound. It's almost impossible to say the sound that I heard is from the shofar, not the pit. It all sounds the same when it's together.
I thought you were saying it's different.
Again, no, you can hear shofar and you could hear the pit, but it's impossible to tell which one caused which.
Well, I mean, what do you...
What do you care as long as you hear
Because
it?
you have to hear the shofar. You have to say, I heard the shofar, not I heard a sound which included shofar. The Rosh would also hold you heard a sound that included shofar.
I mean, if you heard someone cough while you heard a shofar, what do you hear?
Because the cough is not
Seems
integral
to be
to
the
the
source,
shofar
basically.
instrument. It's about the source. Right. But the tom is you're tasting tom pork, which is the problem. Which means there's pork in it.
The question is like, how did the pork get there? That'd be more.
Yeah, that would be more now, right. How did the pork get in there, or what combination of pork and thing is causing that, which you don't have to figure out. All you have to figure out is if pork in there or not.
Well, you don't even. What do you care if you hear the shofar sound and the echo?
Because you have to hear.
Because you
it
have
from
to
the
make,
shofar.
you have to say, I heard kol shofar.
You know you definitely did.
No,
You're just not sure.
no,
if it's
all
an
you know,
echo.
according to the Rosh, all you know is you heard a shofar pit. And I know the
Okay,
shofar, and I know
fine.
that's not
But
good.
you know
That's
the
not
shofar
shofar.
was
That's not
blown.
shofar.
It's a distinctly
It's
new
not knowing the
source.
shofar's blown, or else you could be in Australia, and as long as you said on the phone, I blew the shofar. That would also be good.
No. But you heard the you heard a shofar and you heard an echo. The fact that you can't differentiate between the two does not necessarily make it that you didn't hear shofars. You heard shofar. You also heard the echo.
No, because that's when you're in the pit. When you're outside the pit, it becomes a shofar pit. And unless the guy can say, I know I heard a shofar,
Is that different?
he has to somehow be able to differentiate between shofar and shofar pit. There's no way.
Why do you have to do that?
Or else you're in shofar pit.
Why do you care? Who cares? Okay, fine. At a shofar pit.
That's
You know-
usher. That's not
You
yotzi.
have to be from the shofar.
Yeah, you have to be from the shofar. He has to somehow be outside the pit and go, I heard the
Oh, and
shofar.
if I'm in the pit, it doesn't matter what I hear.
Because it's not a shofar pit, it's just a shofar. That's what we
But I'm
defined
still
that
hearing
originally.
echo.
That doesn't matter, we defined that at the beginning. That's acoustics. It's not a new instrument yet.
You're gonna have
Wait,
that
so
in
why wouldn't Rashi agree with that?
Is that like
Why
axiom?
would Rashi
I
say...
can't go any further than that. The Rashi holds that there's no. It's as long as you can go subjective, we can trust him for subjective. I can't. You can that go with that, and you just keep going back and forth with it. All right. How much time do you have left? I'm going wrong.
Let's see if there's any other questions.
Does anybody not understand?
And so now what are we left with? What the Malchus says?
Machlokas is, does halacha in this case, does halacha allow us, when we hit a wall, does halacha allow us to go a subjective route, or do we have to go back to the last objective measure?
Are there any precedents for either of these cases? Like for the Rush's way and for Rashi's way?
Yeah, we just listed Tom.
So Rashi's the only one that has a...
He
The
doesn't.
Rush is pretty much every other area.
Rush doesn't need anything. Well, the Rush could say that Tom doesn't work. Once you say Tom doesn't work, you don't need Rush.
So yeah, I mean, like
Oh,
the rush sounds nicer. You know, I don't know, has that more objective feel. Says more of the halacha, but I mean, Rashi has the. I don't know, has the history.
We're gonna see that we pass on the Rashi. I don't know what you're saying, but
I mean, I'm running over. You said Rashi is Tom behind him, and the Rush is nothing.
Rush, it says that Tom
the Rush is the rest of halacha behind him.
What?
The Rush is pretty much is the rest of halacha behind him.
What, I don't know what that means.
Most of halacha is objective. There are lines drawn by halacha.
No, I'm saying when we hit a wall, you said,
Yeah.
no, the question is what we do.
Right.
Do we fall back to our last objective thing, or defer to
Right, so I haven't learned every sugya of halacha, so I can't tell you if there are other cases that hit walls. I'm sure there are, and they drew lines. And I'm sure the Rosh would hold similar. Alright. I guess we can finish. There's it. Alright, I guess we can stop there. The Rambam Paskins, like Rashi, you can read it, I guess it's source number 2. He says that it depends on what you heard, as opposed to being always not Yotze if you're outside the pit.
What would make you not Yotze? What would you have to hear in order to not be Yotze?
What?
What would you have to hear in order to not be Yotze outside the pit?
It's not about that, it's about what you didn't hear.
It's not just about sound. It's like kol shofar is a different entity, or kol shofar board. It's not just.
But if you're outside the pit and you think you heard it, then you're Yotze?
No, not according to the Rosh. The Rosh is we don't hear what
Rashi.
Oh yeah. Not if you think.
If you
sure.
think if you know,
Yeah, but why? But why?
I don't know.
Not just stop because you heard.
You have to
sound.
know. He says you have to know. If he
Because
doesn't know,
that's
then
the
he has to be
only
honest.
shofar. What are you talking about, Dylan?
What?
Because that's the only kol shofar that you could possibly hear outside the pit is a shofar.
Yeah, but it's after. Okay, but
We're trying to objectify
You go from
subjective
0
matter.
to just I heard a sound, and therefore I can say kol shofar.
What else can you hear? You hear only the echo? You're afraid that you're
What
going to
you're
hear the
saying.
echo. When will you be outside of the pit
Yeah.
and think
Sounds smart.
and say I'm not Yotze?
When you're like, I have no idea what that sound was. Didn't really
So
sound
that's the only time.
Or if he says, or if he's the other case would be if he says, I heard shofar, or maybe he heard only pit. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't even know that was a shofar. Whatever. We're trying to objectify something that's subjective. Whatever. Every case differs.
But you can't have, even if you want to have a subjective mechanism, there has to be some way of mechanizing, like that. There has to be some way of going right or left.
If he knows he heard shofar, it's how it relates to that.
What?
You don't get that.
Yeah, just like Tom. If I tasted
It is about sound.
shofar,
Dylan, I need to
or
hear
you
the
hear the
shofar.
It's not-
If he believes,
Okay, all right.
It doesn't matter what he
You're
believes.
wrong.
He says that I heard a shofar. That's it. He's Yotze. I heard an echo. I'm not Yotze.
I tasted pork.
Even though
Whatever
he
you
has
think.
no idea what a
Right.
shofar sounds like
Just
by
like Tom.
himself.
Oh, I tasted chayla. Oh, I didn't taste chayla, but that's what it is. I tasted pork. I didn't taste pork. It goes based on what your sense. The tongue tells the brain this is what it is, and that's what you have to trust. Same thing by the shofar.
It's really, and that's it's
So
actually-
Rashi's saying you build the same conviction off between shofar and bor than no pork and pork. That's
Rosh's kasha. Machanas adam.
it's like asking the guy with the pork is that firewood or like it's ridiculous already. How far within the physical phenomena can we add these distinctions?
That's a question.
Loss of reality, bro.
So
that's not our. That's not our.
well, it's not a reality, right? It's just a sound. So
Right.
whatever the guy
I'm making a
hears.
loss of reality in this case.
Okay, but that's all right.